It's not easy being a writer. There's so much to consider. Should you self-publish or apply to a traditional publisher? Can you afford an editor? Can you design your own book cover? How do you finish a book? And how can you market your story if you do manage to complete it? Where do you find beta readers? And how do they differ from ARC readers? The fact is, there's a lot of information to absorb when it comes to the writing industry. From how to write a book, to how to publish it, and how to market it, the information writers are expected to absorb is endless. When releasing your work, you even have to consider how it will be released, whether that's as a physical book, an ebook, or a series of chapters. Yet I have another question to add to your impossibly long list. What is Wattpad and how can you utilize it? Chances are you've at least heard of Wattpad. For many young writers, including names that have since become notable, Wattpad served as a training ground. A free platform for readers and writers alike, Wattpad enables writers to practice their craft while sharing it with others looking for an affordable option. Wattpad is both beloved and reviled, as you can expect from any renowned company. Some of the work on there can be terrible, given that anyone can post their stories, and the community can be hit and miss. Mean comments can slip through, or a book can attract the wrong audience. Some treat Wattpad as a cringy platform for teens, while others view it as a valuable tool, and a platform which provides opportunities to new and old writers alike. While I haven't posted on the platform since high school, and while I've barely read any of the content there, I have to acknowledge the benefits it provides to writers. First, it is a good place for new writers to practice. Second, for those looking to share their work, Wattpad enables creators to do so without having to set up a website. This raises the question, should you post your work on Wattpad? I'm not just talking about the projects you write for fun. I'm talking about your dream book, your magnum opus, the story you plan to publish officially and sell for money. The idea of sharing your rough draft can be terrifying, especially if you're a perfectionist or someone who loses sleep because you've just realized there's a plot hole in chapter 13. We live in a judgmental age where mean comments abound and death threats are normalized. So sharing something you've put your heart and soul into can be particularly unsettling, especially when you know your work isn't at its best. It's an idea I've been asking myself over the past year. At this point in my career, I can't afford an editor. I plan to self-publish, but I can't bring myself to release my book when I know it could be better. As such, I've chosen to hold off publishing, though I've continued to write sequels, to edit the books I have, and to talk about my writing journey. After considering the matter, I determined there could be at least 5 benefits to sharing my book on Wattpad. From the chance to elicit feedback, to the opportunity to practice before an audience, I couldn't think of any reason not to publish there. I'm still working up the nerve to actually do it. And the perfectionist in me wants to do some more editing. But I have designed a temporary cover. And I've planned how what I'm calling my beta release would actually function. If you're looking to release your rough draft somewhere early, there are some caveats. First, determine if Wattpad fits with your audience. The books on Wattpad tend to do better if they fit into popular categories like romance, fantasy, YA, or a mixture of the three. Furthermore, audiences tend to skew younger. Many readers will be teenagers, though there may also be a sizable group of 20 and 30-somethings. Basically, if you can market your book on TikTok, you're probably safe to write it on Wattpad, but you should know what the demographics are. If you're writing a police procedural, for an audience that's 50 years of age or older, your book isn't going to reach its target audience. Second, Wattpad isn't your only option. If you want to monetize your content, platforms like Radish and Fictionate exist, though it should be noted that Radish requires your book to be romance first. If you want to write a vampire story on Radish, you can, but there needs to be lots of kissing and flirtation, and no shortage of warm, fuzzy feelings. Many writers are also considering Kindle Vella as a way to pay for their books. Being paid to release chapter by chapter, writers can then take the funds they've made and funnel them into paying for an editor and creating a book which will then release for Kindle or Ingram Spark. Third, some contests or platforms won't accept your book if it's being published elsewhere. If you hoped to submit your book to several contests before publishing it, having the story on Wattpad could disqualify it. After all, releasing your story to many of these outlets still counts as publishing because you've previously made it available to others. If you plan to hit any contests, study their rules before you share your work. Finally, you won't reach your full audience on Wattpad. Not all paperback readers read Wattpad or vice versa. Not everyone who loves your book on Wattpad is going to buy it when it comes out, and many who might buy it later won't take it seriously while it's on the website. That said, there is some crossover between audiences, even if it's minimal, and books published in a serialized fashion have transitioned between audiences in the past, with The Martian and 50 Shades of Grey being notable examples. Also, other famous authors shared their work over the internet first. Sarah J. Maas's Throne of Glass books started as an online series that were later picked up by Bloomsbury and edited. And in my opinion, the books haven't suffered for it. Cassandra Clare also made a name for herself with her Draco trilogy, before going on to release her original Shadowhunter series. With all that out of the way, it's my belief that sharing your book on Wattpad can be beneficial, or at the very least, harmless. If your book tanks on Wattpad and nobody wants to read it, that could sting. But what have you lost in the end? If nobody wants to read it for free, that could be a sign you still have a lot of work to do. After all, if no one can be bothered to read the free version, they definitely won't pay $20 for it on Amazon, or give you those precious page counts to monetize on Kindle. Before we continue, I'm Riley, and this is Otherworldly Fiction. On this channel, I rant about books, discuss characters and lore, offer my bookish opinion, and share the occasional writing advice. If any of that sounds like your cup of tea, hit the subscribe button. In the end, you have nothing to lose by sharing your work with others. If you're anxious to share your work, but aren't prepared to publish it, releasing your rough draft into the world on a platform like Wattpad can offer at least 5 benefits. Reason number 1, building a following. As noted earlier, the Wattpad community and the bookish community don't always overlap, but there are a handful of readers who bounce between both Wattpad and officially published books. And Wattpad can still be an effective way to get noticed, especially if your book is written for teenagers or has an emphasis on romance. By releasing consistently on Wattpad, you can build a following of devoted readers. They won't come overnight, but authors have published whole series on the platform, building an audience in the process, and the most devoted members of that audience will be eager to immerse themselves in your world, even if it means paying for the official, edited version of your novels. Some writers even release the first book in their series on Wattpad for free, fully edited and complete, so that readers can have a taste of the series before they commit to purchasing the rest. others do what we call a beta release, sharing a rough draft on Wattpad before hiring an editor or hitting publish on Amazon. Although hit and miss, Wattpad is its own form of marketing. If a story explodes, or at least does well, you can build an audience around it before it's even released. Furthermore, that audience can help you, not only to spread the word on your story, but to offer you money if you start a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe to pay for cover design, formatting, and editing. If you build a following that's devoted to your work or the world you've created, there's a chance that several will be willing to back you, especially if it means they get to buy the best version of a story they already adore. It could take years to build this following, maybe even a decade. But having a built-in audience when you finally hit publish is only a plus. Number 2, get feedback. One of the best reasons to share your work on Wattpad or any other site is to get feedback. Not all feedback is created equal, and you'll still need to build something of a readership to receive it with regularity. But feedback is invaluable, especially if you're a newbie writer. From critiques on your writing style to the specific book you've released, feedback is vital to improving your work. While you'll want to hire an editor eventually, it's important to do as much self-editing as you can beforehand. That way, you can catch the more obvious mistakes. You don't want to throw away $20 just for an editor to point out that a character's eyes changed color. These are mistakes you can edit, especially if you have beta readers there to point them out. Wattpad shouldn't be the only place you elicit feedback, as creating a team of beta readers or writing partners is a must. But it can be a good start. What's more, even if you're not getting many comments, Wattpad provides analytics, which can be useful in their own right. For example, your analytics can show where readers are dropping off, an indication your story has gotten dull or needs to be sped up. If a bunch of people read the first chapter and then abandon the book, that could be an indicator you have a weak opening and need to develop a stronger hook. Analytics can also tell you which readers were attracted to your work, such as their gender, what countries they're coming from, and so on. If your target audience isn't matching who's actually reading your work, that's a sign, either that you need to write for a different audience, or that you have to adjust your work to appeal to another demographic. If your YA is attracting more 30-year-olds, that's an indication you need more themes or elements that will appeal to teens, like popular romance tropes or coming-of-age arcs. Reason number 3, it creates a habit. Even if your book gets 0 views and nobody reads it, posting it on Wattpad still has one tangible benefit. You create a habit. Many writers want to write more often, and Wattpad, along with other platforms, encourages regular posts. The stories that do well are updated often, and then completed. If you're struggling to even finish a novel, Wattpad could push you to do so. If you want to become someone who writes every day, Wattpad forces you to write frequently, whether you plan to post chapters daily or weekly. By having an upload schedule, such as a new chapter every Saturday, you're forced to write continually. Not all writers have the time to write every day. Will I enjoy writing every day? I recognize that it's not possible or even necessary for some writers. Instead, if you're someone who is busy or who just wants to write a few books in their lifetime, I advocate for writing once a week. Choose a day on the weekend when you have no commitments and write a chapter or 3. Though I write daily now, I used to write once a week, and for a long time that was enough. Plus, in one day, you could still write a few chapters, enabling you to batch content if you're only posting 1 day a week. Whatever you choose to do, having a publishing schedule will help you to develop a writing habit. And that's always a plus, not only for completing your work, but for improving at the craft faster. Reason number 4, it's good practice. Tying into the last point, writing regularly is simply good practice. Plus, by publishing on Wattpad, you can avoid creating in a vacuum. If you receive solid feedback or comments, you can spot your common mistakes, as well as improve your writing overall as you correct them. Writing on your own is still invaluable, especially if you're reading lots of books and studying the craft itself through books, articles, or videos while you're doing so. However, if you have feedback on top of your regular practice, you can practice the right way, using the knowledge you've gained from readers and avoiding common pitfalls in the first place. As noted in my last point, writing on a schedule forces you to write more, which in turn means more practice. It goes without saying, the more you practice, the faster you'll improve. If you have someone who runs once a month versus someone who runs every week or even every day, it's not hard to guess who will become fit first. It's said that every writer will have to write 1 million words of garbage before they can be considered good. So let Wattpad be your arena for sharing your crap. You have several thousand words to crank out. So why not let Wattpad be your motivator for getting them out of the way? Reason number 5 is having something to market. In a previous point, I noted that Wattpad is its own form of marketing. Readers can discover your story and offer both loyalty as future audience members and feedback you can use to improve. However, there's another advantage to posting on Wattpad, or online anywhere. Not only is it another form of marketing, but it can give you something to market. A part of me was tempted to push my first book out, just so I would have something to share. I wanted to make aesthetic videos, share quotes, and talk about my book. I wanted to have something I could link to and show off, because trying to market something that doesn't exist is awkward. Worse, most people won't take it as seriously, because we know there are hundreds of writers who will share character avatars and quotes, but never have anything tangible to show for it. At the same time, I didn't want to release my first book if I wasn't in a position to follow up with the sequels in a timely manner. Marketing book 1 for 5 years without providing a sequel just seemed unfair. George R.R. Martin and Patrick Rothfuss are already tormenting readers, and I didn't want to add to that. Therefore, Wattpad seems like a solid compromise. While I'm not sharing the final version of my work, I'm sharing something, which gives me something I can talk about. When you look up how to do well on Wattpad, marketing is still encouraged. As such, when I publish my story on Wattpad, I'll still be expected to post about it on TikTok or YouTube, which means I'll get to do those fun videos I've been fantasizing about. Once I have my book up on Wattpad, I'll be able to share quotes, book trailers, aesthetic videos, and videos where I actually discuss my book, covering everything from the synopsis to the journey I've taken for the story to reach its current point. Plus, I'll have a fun cover to show off, even if it's only temporary. Both beloved and hated, Wattpad still offers writers benefits. It won't be for every writer or story, but you have little to lose by sharing your work with others. From gaining feedback to developing a writing habit and creating a buzz around your work, the opportunities the platform provides can't be denied. If your book flops, you still haven't lost anything, though a failure on Wattpad could be its own form of feedback, indicating your story still has a ways to go to capture reader attention. There are some catches. As mentioned earlier, you'll want to be sure any contests you plan to submit to don't treat your work as previously published if you post on the platform. As with any social media, You'll also want to brace yourself for bad feedback at best and cruel comments at worst. Wattpad is far from perfect, and you'll want to be sure it's a good fit for the type of story you're telling. Finally, keep in mind that there are other platforms you can post to, either instead of Wattpad or in conjunction with it, such as Tapas, Fictionate, or Radish, each with their own stipulations for the kinds of content they accept. It won't be for everyone, but releasing your rough draft on Wattpad can provide benefits. You can build an audience, creating a buzz before your work is even officially published. You can cultivate a writing habit and improve your craft. You can gain feedback designed to improve both your writing and the book itself. And you can give yourself something to market or otherwise discuss and build excitement around on your social media pages. Moreover, there's the matter of editing. Not every writer, especially those who plan to self-publish, can afford an editor. Using a platform like Wattpad can be an invaluable way to gain feedback. If you're writing out of passion, just to tell your story so that you can say you wrote something, that's valid, and Wattpad allows you to do exactly that. In many cases, making editing an unnecessary expense. In some cases, hiring an editor can be a waste of money, and in the video on the left, I detail why. As always, thank you for watching, and happy writing!